The emergency alarm echoed through the Galactic Council chambers. Ambassador Una stood from her seat, her heart racing as the massive holographic display flickered to life. She had been part of the Council for only 3 years, representing humanity among the 17 founding species of the galaxy. Most days, the other ambassadors barely noticed her presence. Today was different. A face appeared on the screen. It belonged to Thelion, the Valorian ambassador. His skin was pale blue and his large eyes were filled with tears. The Valorians were known across the galaxy as the most peaceful species, a race that had never known war or violence. They spent their lives creating art, studying philosophy, and living in harmony. "Please," Thelion's voice cracked. "We need help. The Kreshti swarm has attacked Valoria Prime. 4 billion of my people are trapped. Our shields will fail in 3 days. We beg the Council for aid." The chamber fell silent. Una felt the weight of those words. 4 billion lives, 3 days. The Council leader, a tall crystalline being named Shivara, spoke first. "We will discuss military options." "Peloran Military Command, what can you deploy?" The Peloran ambassador stood. His species had the most advanced military in the galaxy. "We reviewed the tactical situation. Valoria Prime has 1.4 times Earth's gravity. Our soldiers cannot function in such conditions. Their bodies would collapse under the weight. We cannot help," Una leaned forward. 1.4 G? That was heavy, but not impossible. Humans lived and worked in various gravity conditions. "What about your fleet?" Shivara asked. "Orbital bombardment. The Kreshti have established ground positions in all major cities," the Peloran replied. "We would kill as many Valorians as Kreshti. It is not acceptable." The Thexian ambassador spoke next. Her species controlled the second largest fleet. "Our ships cannot navigate the Valoria system. The asteroid density is too high. We would lose half our fleet just reaching the planet." One by one, each species presented their reasons for declining. The Shivari could not tolerate Valoria's humid atmosphere. The Korthax reptilians feared the planet's active volcanoes. The Menthari scientists said the seismic activity made ground operations impossible. Una watched Thelion's face as each rejection came. The hope in his eyes died a little more with each refusal. By the time the 15th species declined, he was openly weeping. "Is there no one?" Thelion asked. "My people. Our children." "Please," Shivara looked around the chamber. "I'm sorry, Ambassador Thelion. Valoria Prime is too hostile for military operations. The Council cannot mount a rescue." The session adjourned. Ambassadors filed out quietly, many avoiding eye contact with Thelion. Una sat in her seat, unable to move. She thought about her own childhood on Earth. She remembered earthquakes in Seoul, typhoons on the coast, the stories her grandmother told about surviving in the mountains. Earth was a harsh world, but humans had learned to thrive there. She pulled out her communication device and called Fleet Admiral Kijun on Earth. "Ambassador." Kijun's gruff voice answered. "I watched the Council session. Terrible situation. Admiral, I need to ask you something," Una said. "Could we help them?" There was a long pause. "Tell me about the planet. 1.4 G active volcanoes, frequent earthquakes, dense asteroid field in the system, thick atmosphere with volcanic ash." Another pause. "That's it?" Una blinked. Yes, that's why no one will go." "Ambassador, that describes half of Earth's surface," Kijun said. "How many people need saving?" 4 billion. Give me 6 hours. I'll call you back." The line went dead. Una sat alone in the empty chamber, hoping she had not just promised something humanity could not deliver. 6 hours later, Una received the message. The human military was mobilizing a full battle group. The carrier Indomitable would lead, with 3 support ships and 2,000 Marines. Commander Daehyun would lead ground forces. Dr. Sora would coordinate medical operations. Lieutenant Hyun would command the fighter squadrons. Sergeant Minji would handle combat engineering. Una requested an emergency council session. When the ambassadors returned, many looked annoyed at being called back. Shivara gestured for Una to speak. "Humanity will respond to Valoria Prime's distress call," Una announced. "Our fleet launches in 4 hours." The chamber erupted. Several ambassadors spoke at once. "Impossible," the Peloran ambassador said. "The gravity alone would kill your soldiers." "The asteroid field will destroy your ships," the Thexian added. "This is suicide," another voice called out. Una stood calmly. "Earth is classified as a Class 12 death world. Our planet has higher gravity in many regions. We have active volcanoes and earthquakes daily. We navigate through debris fields in our own orbit constantly. For us, Valoria Prime is challenging but manageable. You would risk your forces for a species you barely know? Shavara asked. Yes, Yuna said simply. Because it is right. Thelian rose from his seat, tears streaming down his face. Thank you. Thank you. I do not know how to save your thanks, Yuna said gently. Let us save your people first. The council session ended. As Yuna walked to her ship, she passed groups of ambassadors whispering to each other. She caught fragments of their conversations. Deathworlders are insane. They will all die. Even if they survive the journey, the Kreshti will tear them apart. Yuna ignored them all. She boarded her transport and set course for Earth, where she would join the fleet. As her ship lifted off, she looked back at the council station. For 30 years, humanity had been the youngest species, the primitive newcomers that the advanced civilizations tolerated but did not respect. That was about to change. On Earth, Commander Daehyun stood in the briefing room, looking at the holographic display of Valoria Prime. His officers surrounded him. They had trained for every possible combat scenario but never one quite like this. The planet is hostile, Daehyun said. Heavy gravity, active geology, limited visibility. The Kreshti chose this target because they knew the council could not respond. And we can? Lieutenant Hyun asked. Daehyun smiled. Hyun, you grew up in Jeju. You have flown through typhoons that would shred any council aircraft. Minji served in the DMZ where the ground shook from artillery daily. Sora worked in the Amazon where everything was trying to kill her. I trained in the Himalayas where the air is too thin to breathe. He looked at each of them. Valoria Prime is not home. But we know how to fight in hell. The Kreshti do not. Dr. Sora pulled up casualty projections. If we fail, 4 billion Valorians die. If we do nothing, 4 billion Valorians die. I would rather try and fail than live knowing we could have helped. Sergeant Minji nodded. When do we leave? 2 hours, Daehyun said. Get your gear. We have people to save. The fleet launched on schedule. As the Indomitable broke orbit, Daehyun stood on the bridge watching Earth shrink behind them. It was a beautiful blue-green marble, wrapped in swirling white clouds. It looked peaceful from space, he knew better. Earth was a world of storms and fire, of predators and disease, of 1,000 ways to die. Humanity had survived it all. They had not just survived, they had thrived. Now they would show the galaxy what Deathworlders could do. The journey to Valoria Prime would take 3 days. The Kreshti did not know they were coming. The galaxy did not believe they would survive. Daehyun smiled grimly. Let them watch. Let them learn humanity was coming. Lieutenant Hyun sat in his fighter cockpit, watching asteroids drift past his canopy. The Valoria system was dense with rock and ice, remnants of a planetary collision millions of years ago. The Thexians had called this field impossible to navigate. Hyun thought it looked easier than the orbital debris around Earth. All wings, stay tight, he said into his comm. Follow my lead through the gap. Behind him, 20 fighters formed up. They moved through the asteroid field like fish through water, dodging and weaving with practiced ease. The pilots joked over the open channel, relaxed despite the danger. On the Indomitable's bridge, Commander Daehyun watched the tactical display. The carrier and its support ships followed Hyun's path through the asteroids. A Pelleran admiral had called this approach suicidal. Daehyun watched his helmsman navigate the massive ship through gaps that seemed impossibly small. Steady as she goes, Daehyun said. Nice flying. Sir, this is easier than leaving port during storm season, the helmsman replied. Valoria Prime appeared on the screens. It was a beautiful world, covered in purple oceans and green continents, but the beauty was marred by smoke. Cities burned below. The planet's shields flickered weakly, barely holding back the Kreshti bombardment. Tactical, what are we looking at? Daehyun asked. Kreshti blockade of 30 warships. Ground forces estimated at 50,000. They have taken 3 major cities. Valorian casualties are high. Ambassador Yuna stepped onto the bridge. She had joined the fleet against Daehyun's advice, but he understood. This was her mission. She needed to see it through. Commander, the Valorians are broadcasting, the communications officer said. They want to speak with you. Thelian's face appeared on screen. He looked exhausted. Commander Daehyun, you actually came. We did not truly believe. We are here, Ambassador, Daehyun said. Where do you need us? Everywhere, Thelian said weakly. The Kreshti are slaughtering us. We have never fought a war. We do not know how. You will learn, Daehyun said. First, we break their blockade. Then we take back your cities. Can your shields hold for another hour? Yes, barely. Then watch what Deathworlders can do. The Indomitable launched its full fighter complement. Hyun led his squadron directly at the Kreshti blockade. The alien ships were massive, bristling with weapons. They turned to face the human fighters, their sensors likely showing easy targets. They were wrong. Hyun dove through the Kreshti formation, his fighters following in perfect coordination. They moved too fast, turned too sharply, pulled G-forces that would kill most species. The Kreshti fired desperately, but their targeting systems could not track the human craft. All wings, light them up, Hyun called. Missiles and railgun fire tore into the Kreshti ships. 3 exploded immediately. The others scattered, their formation broken. The human fighters pursued, harrying them like wolves hunting prey. On the ground, the Kreshti watched the sky in confusion. Their blockade was supposed to be impenetrable. How were these humans moving so fast? The Indomitable pushed through the gap, its point defense systems shredding incoming fire. The support ships followed, and within minutes the human fleet was in orbit over Valoria Prime. Deploy drop pods, Daehyun ordered. What happened next shocked every Valorian watching. The humans loaded into small metal pods and launched directly at the planet's surface. No shuttles. No slow descents. They just fell through the atmosphere like meteors. Sergeant Minji sat in her pod, listening to the hull groan as it hit the thick atmosphere. Around her, her engineering team checked their gear. The pod shook violently as it descended through ash clouds from active volcanoes. Minji had done this dozens of times in Earth's most hostile environments. This was just another drop. The pod slammed into the ground outside Valoria City. The door blew off and Minji led her team out, weapons ready. The gravity hit her immediately. 1.4 G was heavy, but she had trained in worse. Her team spread out, securing the landing zone. A group of Valorians emerged from a nearby building. They were thin and graceful, their bodies designed for their world's normal gravity. They stared at the humans in shock. You are moving so easily, one Valorian said. The gravity does not affect you. It affects us, Minji said, checking her scanner. We just learned to deal with it. More pods landed around the city. Human Marines emerged, setting up defensive positions with practiced efficiency. Dr. Sora's medical teams immediately began treating wounded Valorians, setting up field hospitals in buildings that were still shaking from seismic activity. A Valorian doctor named Talon approached Sora. How can you work during an earthquake? Sora looked up from the patient she was treating. An earthquake? I thought that was just normal here. It is, Talon said. But how do you focus? Practice, Sora said simply. She finished bandaging the patient and moved to the next. Her hands were steady despite the trembling ground. On Earth, we have earthquakes every day. You learn to work through them. Commander Daehyun landed with the main force near the city center. The Kreshti had established a command post in what used to be a government building. Daehyun studied the tactical situation. The Kreshti were dug in deep using Valorian civilians as shields. We do this carefully, Daehyun told his officers. No civilian casualties. We are here to save people, not destroy cities. Lieutenant Hyun, now on the ground with a rifle squad, pointed to a Kreshti patrol. Contact. 8 hostiles, 200 meters. The Kreshti were massive creatures, standing 8 feet tall with thick armor plating and multiple arms. They carried heavy weapons designed to kill anything they encountered. They moved with confidence, used to easy victories. They spotted the humans and charged. The Kreshti expected the humans to run. Most species did. Instead, the humans formed a firing line and opened up with precise, controlled fire. The Kreshti's armor was strong, but human weapons were designed to penetrate it. 3 Kreshti fell before they closed half the distance. The remaining Kreshti reached melee range. They swung their weapons, expecting to crush the smaller humans. Hyun ducked under a blade, put 3 rounds into the Kreshti's weak point under its arm, and rolled away as it collapsed. The fight lasted 30 seconds. 8 Kreshti lay dead. No human casualties. A Valorian civilian had watched from a window. He emerged slowly, staring at the bodies. They are so much bigger than you. How did you, Size does not matter much, Hyun said, reloading his rifle. Skill and training do. Across the city, similar scenes played out. The Kreshti, used to fighting peaceful species, found themselves facing enemies that moved faster, hit harder, and refused to break. Every human had trained for combat since they were young. Every human came from a world that tried to kill them daily. The Kreshti were strong. Humans were survivors. By nightfall, the human forces had established a defensive perimeter around the Valorian refugee camps. Sergeant Minji's teams had fortified key positions, using the planet's own hostile geology to create barriers. She redirected lava flows, triggered controlled avalanches, and turned seismic faults into defensive lines. A young Valorian boy named Kylan approached one of the human positions. He stared at the Marines with wide eyes. "Are you really from a death world?" he asked. One Marine, a corporal named Bora, knelt down to his level. "We are. Earth tried to kill us for millions of years. We learned to fight back. And now you fight for us?" "Yes," Bora said. "Because you need help and we can give it." Kylan touched Bora's armor. "Thank you." In the command center, Daehyun reviewed casualty reports. 20 humans wounded, none seriously. 300 Valorians saved. The Kreshti had lost over 1,000 warriors. It was a good start, but the battle was far from over. Yuna entered the command center. "The council is watching. They cannot believe what they are seeing." "What are they saying?" Daehyun asked. "That we are insane. That we are lucky. That the Kreshti will eventually overwhelm us." Daehyun smiled. "Let them think that. We have faced worse than the Kreshti. Earth threw everything at us, disease, predators, natural disasters, ourselves. We are still here." Outside, the night sky lit up with fire. The Kreshti were launching another assault. Human positions opened fire, tracers cutting through the darkness. Explosions echoed across the city. The Valorians watched from their shelters, seeing hope for the first time in weeks. These strange humans from their impossible world had come when no one else would. They fought in conditions that crushed other species. They moved through gravity that should have pinned them down. They were Deathworlders, and they were winning. The Kreshti attacked at dawn. Queen Vriska, commanding from her flagship in orbit, had committed 10,000 warriors to breaking the human defensive line. She watched through combat drones as her forces advanced on the human positions. "These Deathworlders are tough," she told her advisors, "but they are few. We will crush them through numbers alone." On the ground, Sergeant Minji watched the Kreshti advance through her scope. The enemy moved in a massive wave, thinking their size and numbers would overwhelm the defenders. She smiled grimly. They were about to learn a hard lesson. "Hold fire until they reach the markers," she ordered her team. "Let them get close." The Kreshti crossed into the kill zone. Minji pressed a detonator. The ground beneath the Kreshti forces erupted. She had spent all night rigging the volcanic vents, channeling superheated gas into explosive traps. Hundreds of Kreshti fell in the first blast. Now, all positions opened fire. Human weapons roared to life. The Marines had positioned themselves perfectly, using the high ground and natural cover. Every shot was calculated. Every bullet found its mark. The Kreshti tried to advance, but human crossfire cut them down systematically. Commander Daehyun moved between positions, directing fire and adjusting tactics. A Kreshti shell exploded nearby, showering him with debris. He ignored it, focused on the battle. This was what humans did best: adapt, overcome, survive. A Valorian observer named Talon watched the battle from the command center. She was a teacher before the war, someone who had never imagined violence. Now she saw the humans fighting with brutal efficiency. "How do they stay so calm?" she asked Dr. Sora, who was treating wounded nearby. "Training," Sora said, wrapping a bandage around a Marine's arm. "Every human soldier spends years preparing for combat. On Earth, we have been fighting since our species began. We know war." "But you also know kindness," Talon said, watching Sora work with gentle hands. "How can you be both?" Sora looked up at her. "Because we have to be. We learned to fight so we could protect. We became strong so we could defend the weak. That is what separates us from the Kreshti." The battle raged for 6 hours. The Kreshti kept coming, wave after wave, but the human lines held. Lieutenant Hyun's fighter squadron provided air support, diving through the ash-choked atmosphere to strike Kreshti formations. Each pass was dangerous. The volcanic ash could destroy engines and the turbulence was extreme. "This is easier than flying through a monsoon," Hyun said over the comm, pulling out of a dive that would have torn apart any council aircraft. By midday, the Kreshti assault broke. Queen Vriska watched in disbelief as her warriors retreated in disorder. She had thrown 10,000 against a force of 2,000 and lost. How? Her chief advisor asked. They should be exhausted. The gravity alone should have crushed them. They are from a death world, Vriska said slowly. We need to change tactics. On the ground, the humans used the lull to strengthen their defenses. Minji's engineering teams worked through the afternoon, building barriers and setting up more traps. A group of Valorian civilians approached, led by Talon. We want to help, Talon said. Minji looked at the Valorians. They were smaller than humans, weaker in the heavy gravity, but their eyes held determination. Can you lift equipment? We can try. Then come on. I will show you how to build a proper defensive wall. The Valorians worked alongside the humans, struggling with the weight but refusing to quit. Minji watched a young Valorian male carry supplies that were clearly too heavy for him. He stumbled but kept going. What is your name? Minji asked. Kylan, the Valorian said. This is my home. I will defend it. Good, Minji said. Then let me teach you how. As night fell, the Kreshti tried a different approach. They sent infiltration teams into the human lines, small groups of elite warriors designed to kill silently and create chaos. They did not understand human senses. Humans had evolved as pursuit predators on Earth, tracking prey across vast distances. The Marines heard the Kreshti coming long before they arrived. Night vision equipment, developed for hunting in Earth's darkest environments, made the darkness irrelevant. The Kreshti infiltrators walked into ambushes. Human soldiers moved silently through the ruins, using skills honed over millions of years of evolution. The Kreshti were good hunters, but humans were apex predators. By morning, every infiltration team was dead or captured. Commander Daehyun interrogated a captured Kreshti warrior. The creature was defiant despite its injuries. You cannot win, human. We are legion. We will overwhelm you. Maybe, Daehyun said, but you will pay for every meter of ground. Your queen is learning that we do not break easily. You are brave, the Kreshti admitted, but bravery does not stop claws. No, Daehyun agreed, but skill does, strategy does, and we have both. Over the next 2 days, the pattern repeated. The Kreshti attacked in massive waves. The humans, held using terrain, tactics, and superior training to defeat larger forces. The Valorians, inspired by the human example, began to fight back. Talon picked up a weapon for the first time in her life. Her hands shook as she held it. A Marine named Bora showed her how to aim and fire. I am a teacher, Talon said. I have never hurt anyone. You are not hurting, Bora said gently. You are protecting. Your students, your neighbors, your people. There is a difference. Talon fired at a Kreshti target on the practice range. The shot went wide. She tried again. And again. By the end of the day, she could hit the target consistently. More Valorians joined the defense. They could not match human strength or endurance, but they knew their own planet. They guided humans through hidden passages, warned them of unstable ground, and provided intelligence on Kreshti movements. Dr. Sora treated a wounded Valorian soldier, a concept that had not existed a week ago. You did well, she told him. You held your position. I was terrified, the Valorian admitted. How do humans face such fear? We are always terrified, Sora said. Fear is natural. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is doing what must be done despite the fear. In orbit, Queen Vriska studied the battle reports. Her forces had lost 15,000 warriors. The humans had lost less than 100. The Valorians, once helpless prey, were becoming fighters. This was unacceptable. Deploy the final assault, she ordered. 50,000 warriors all at once. Crush them. Her advisor hesitated. Your Majesty, if this fails, we lose everything. It will not fail, Vriska said. I have a plan. The next morning, sensors detected the massive Kreshti buildup. Daehyun studied the tactical display, his expression grim. They are throwing everything at us. Yuna stood beside him. Can we hold? I do not know, Daehyun said honestly. But we will try. Lieutenant Hyun checked his fighter. Commander, we are running low on ammunition. One more major engagement, maybe two. Sergeant Minji examined her explosive reserves. I can set traps for the first wave, but after that, we are fighting with small arms only. Dr. Sora looked at the casualty projections. If they break through, the refugee camps are exposed. Millions will die. Daehyun gathered his officers. We knew this would be hard. We knew the odds. But we also know something the Kreshti do not. What is that, sir? Hyun asked. Humans do not quit, Daehyun said. Earth tried to kill us for 4 billion years. We are still here. The Kreshti are just another challenge. We will face them, and we will win, because that is what Deathworlders do. The officers nodded. Around the command center, Marines checked their weapons. Valorian volunteers took their positions beside human soldiers. Dr. Sora prepared her medical teams for mass casualties. The Kreshti army assembled on the horizon. 50,000 warriors, the largest force they had ever deployed. They beat their weapons against their armor, creating a thunderous noise meant to terrify their enemies. The humans stood silent, waiting. A young Valorian named Kylan stood at the defensive wall, holding a rifle Sergeant Minji had given him. He was scared, but he would not run. The humans had shown him that fear did not mean weakness. Talon stood beside him, her weapon ready. Whatever happens, she told the other Valorians, we are not helpless anymore. The Kreshti charged. The final battle for Valoria Prime had begun. The ground shook as 50,000 Kreshti warriors charged across the ash-covered plains. Commander Daehyun watched them come, his face calm despite the overwhelming numbers. He had faced impossible odds before. Earth had taught every human that survival was about intelligence, not just strength. All positions hold fire until my command, he said into his comm. Let them come to us. The Kreshti believed they would win through sheer force. They had always won that way. But they were not fighting the Council's peaceful species anymore. They were fighting humans who had learned warfare from Earth itself. The Kreshti reached the first defensive line. Sergeant Minji pressed her detonator. The volcanic vents she had rigged erupted in a chain reaction, sending superheated gas and lava across the Kreshti front ranks. Thousands fell, but thousands more kept coming. Now, fire everything, Daehyun ordered. Every human weapon opened up at once. The defensive positions erupted with fire. Marines who had trained their entire lives unleashed precise, devastating volleys. Lieutenant Yun's fighters screamed overhead, dropping their last missiles into the Kreshti formations, but there were too many. The Kreshti absorbed terrible losses and kept advancing. They reached the walls and began climbing, their massive claws finding purchase in the stone. Hand-to-hand fighting erupted along the defensive line. The Kreshti were larger and stronger, but the humans were faster and better trained. A Kreshti warrior grabbed at a Marine named Bora. She ducked under its claws, put 2 rounds into its exposed joint, and rolled away as it collapsed. Beside her, a Valorian named Talon fired her weapon with shaking hands. Her shots went wide at first, but she kept firing. A Kreshti turned toward her, raising its blade. Bora shot it before it could strike. Stay close to me, Bora told Talon. We fight together. The battle raged for hours. The humans were running out of ammunition. Exhaustion was setting in despite their superior endurance. Even Deathworlders had limits. In orbit, Queen Vriska watched with satisfaction. They are weakening. Send the message to their commander. I want him to know this was all a trap. On the ground, Daehyun received an encrypted transmission. It contained coordinates to a Kreshti command center deep in the volcanic Badlands. The message said this was their main headquarters, the key to stopping the invasion. It is obviously a trap, Lieutenant Hyun said, reading the report. Obviously, Daehyun agreed. But if there is even a small chance it is real, we have to check. Dr. Sora looked at the coordinates. Commander, those Badlands are deadly. The volcanic activity there makes our current position look safe. The heat alone could kill you. Then we go prepared, Daehyun said. He turned to his officers. I need volunteers. This will be dangerous. Every officer stepped forward. Daehyun selected a small team, Hyun, Minji, and 6 elite Marines. They would move fast and light, penetrate deep into enemy territory, and either confirm the target or expose the trap. If we are not back in 12 hours, Daehyun told Yuna, assume we failed. Pull all forces back to the final defensive line. I will not abandon you, Yuna said. You will save the Valorians, Daehyun corrected. That is the mission. The strike team departed at midnight. They moved through Kreshti-held territory using stealth and speed. The volcanic badlands were exactly as terrible as predicted. The ground radiated heat through their boots. Toxic gases vented from cracks in the earth. The temperature was high enough to melt most council materials. My grandmother's oven was hotter than this, Hyun muttered. Your grandmother lived in a volcano? Minji asked. No, but she cooked like she did. Despite the jokes, the conditions were brutal. Even for humans, this was pushing the edge of survival. They found the Kreshti command center exactly where the coordinates indicated. But they also found something else. Massive seismic charges placed around the region's largest volcanic caldera. Minji studied the charges with growing horror. This is a trap. They are going to trigger an eruption. It would destroy half the continent, including the Valorian capital. When? Daehyun asked, unknown. But these charges are armed. Could be any moment. As if in response, alarms started blaring on the seismic charges. A countdown appeared on the displays. 20 minutes, run, Daehyun ordered. They sprinted back toward the safety line, but they were too deep in the Badlands. The math was simple and brutal. They would not make it out before the charges detonated. Minji stopped running. Commander, wait. No time, Sergeant, move. Sir, I can disarm these maybe, but it will take time. Time we do not have. Daehyun understood immediately. I am not leaving you behind. Commander, there are 4 billion Valorians depending on us. I lie for 4 billion. That is the best trade in history. There has to be another way. Back at the defensive line, Dr. Sora was monitoring their communication. She studied the seismic data from the Badlands, her mind racing. She had been working with Valorian geologists for days, learning about the planet's volcanic systems. Wait, she said into the comm. Do not disarm them. Reprogram them. What? Daehyun asked. The charges are meant to trigger an eruption that spreads in all directions. But if you change the detonation pattern, you can direct the flow. Channel it away from the Valorian cities and toward the Kreshti staging grounds, Minji finished, understanding. We turn their weapon against them. Can you do it? Daehyun asked. Minji ran to the nearest charge, pulling out her tools. I can try. Give me 15 minutes. You have 10, Daehyun said. Then we are dragging you out of here. Minji worked with absolute focus. Her hands moved across the Kreshti technology, adapting human engineering principles to alien systems. Sweat poured down her face from the heat. The countdown ticked toward 0. Around her, the strike team held off Kreshti patrols that had discovered their presence. Hyun fired carefully, making every shot count. Their ammunition was nearly exhausted. 5 minutes, Daehyun called. Almost there, Minji replied, her voice tight with concentration. In orbit, Queen Vriska prepared to trigger the charges remotely. She would destroy the humans and blame it on natural seismic activity. The Council would accept the explanation. The Kreshti would claim Valoria Prime. Her plan was perfect. She pressed the trigger. On the ground, the charges detonated. The volcanic caldera erupted with devastating force. But instead of spreading across the continent, the lava flow channeled precisely toward the Kreshti staging grounds. Minji's reprogramming had turned Queen Vriska's weapon into a surgical strike. The Kreshti forces, gathered in their thousands, watched the wall of lava approaching. They tried to flee, but molten rock moved faster than even they could run. The lava consumed their positions, their equipment, their reinforcements. The strike team ran from the eruption, feeling the heat at their backs. They reached the safety line with seconds to spare, diving into a sheltered ravine as pyroclastic flows roared overhead. When the smoke cleared, Minji looked back at her work. The volcanic badlands were changed forever, but the Valorian cities remained untouched. The Kreshti staging grounds were buried under meters of cooling lava. That, she said, gasping for breath, I was too close. Remind me to recommend you for a medal, Daehyun said. Queen Vriska stared at the tactical display in disbelief. Her trap had backfired catastrophically. 40,000 warriors were dead or missing. Her invasion force was shattered. And the humans, those impossible Deathworlders, had survived. She realized her mistake then. She had treated the humans like any other council species. She had not understood what it meant to come from a death world. These creatures lived on a planet that tried to kill them every day. They had learned to turn any environment into a weapon. Retreat, she ordered. Full withdrawal. Get us out of this system. Her advisors stared. Your Majesty, if we retreat now, if we stay they will kill us all, Vriska said. Order the retreat now. On Valoria Prime, the Kreshti forces began pulling back. The warriors who had seemed unstoppable days ago now fled in disorder. The humans pursued them, harrying them all the way to their landing zones. Valorian defenders fighting beside human marines watched the enemy retreat. Young Kylan stood at the wall, his weapon still raised. He could barely believe what he was seeing. We won, Talon said beside him. The humans actually won. We won, Kylan corrected. We fought, we helped. The humans showed us how. The last Kreshti ship lifted from the surface. Human fighters escorted them out of the system, making sure they did not return. As the enemy fleet jumped to hyperspace, a cheer went up from the Valorian cities. Commander Daehyun stood in the ruins of Valoria City, watching the sunset. The sky was still choked with ash, but it was clearing. The seismic activity was settling. The planet would heal. Dr. Sora approached him. Casualty report. 150 humans wounded, 12 seriously. No deaths? And the Valorians? Millions saved. Thousands learned to fight. They will never be helpless again, Daehyun nodded. Then it was worth it. 3 days after the Kreshti retreat, Valoria Prime celebrated its first day of peace. The streets filled with people who had spent weeks hiding in shelters. Children played in the ruins while their parents worked to rebuild. The volcanic ash was settling and the sky was beginning to clear. Young Kylan walked through the city with Sergeant Minji, who was teaching him basic engineering. Why do you help us rebuild? Kylan asked. You already saved us. You could go home. Minji smiled. Saving people is not just about fighting. It is about making sure they have a future worth living. She showed him how to test a building's structural integrity. Your world tried to kill you. Now you know you can survive it. Across the city, Valorian civilians worked alongside human marines. Teacher Talon organized supply distribution with Dr. Sora. Former philosophy students learned combat medicine. Artists painted memorial walls for the fallen. The Valorians were changing, shaped by their ordeal. We were so soft before, Talon told Sora. We believed the galaxy was safe because the Council protected us. We were wrong. You were not wrong to want peace, Sora said gently. But now you understand that peace must be defended. That is not weakness. That is wisdom. Ambassador Yuna prepared for her return to the Galactic Council. The official ceremony was scheduled for that afternoon. Valorian Ambassador Thelian wanted to present humanity with their highest honors. Yuna had tried to refuse, but Thelian insisted. Your people deserve recognition, he said. They did what the entire galaxy said was impossible. The ceremony took place in Valoria's Grand Hall, damaged but still standing. Thousands of Valorians attended. Commander Daehyun stood with his officers, uncomfortable in their dress uniforms. They were soldiers, not politicians. Thelion spoke to the crowd. Weeks ago we begged the galaxy for help. 17 species refused. They said our world was too dangerous, that saving us was impossible. Only one species answered our call. Only the humans responded. He turned to face the human delegation. You came from a world the galaxy calls a nightmare. You thrive in conditions that kill other species. You are Deathworlders. But you are also something else. You are heroes. You taught us that strength without compassion is cruelty, but compassion without strength is helplessness. You showed us the balance. Medals were presented. Daehyun accepted his with a nod. Lieutenant Hyun tried not to blush. Sergeant Minji stood at attention. Dr. Sora smiled at the Valorian children in the audience. But Yuna's mind was elsewhere. She was thinking about the council meeting scheduled for the next day. The galaxy had watched everything. They knew now what humanity was capable of. The question was, what would they do with that knowledge? The Galactic Council chamber was crowded when Yuna entered. Every species had sent representatives. The whispers started immediately. The Pelleran ambassador avoided eye contact. The Thexian looked uncomfortable. Only the crystalline Shivara met Yuna's gaze directly. Ambassador Yuna, Shivara said formally. The Council wishes to discuss recent events at Valoria Prime. Of course, Yuna said, taking her seat. The Pelleran ambassador stood. What humanity accomplished was remarkable. But it raises questions. Your species operates in environments that would kill any council race. Your soldiers fight with an efficiency we have never seen. You turned a volcanic eruption into a weapon. Frankly, you terrify us. Murmurs of agreement filled the chamber. We invited primitives into the council, another ambassador said. We thought you needed our guidance. Instead, we discover you are apex predators from a world so hostile we cannot even visit it safely. Yuna stood slowly. Is this a problem? It is concerning, the Pelleran said. The balance of power has shifted. The balance was always an illusion, Yuna said quietly. You built your civilizations on paradise worlds. You created technology to avoid danger, not overcome it. You forgot what survival means. When the Kreshti attacked Valoria Prime, you refused to help because it was too difficult. Not because you lacked the technology, because you lacked the will. We are not warriors, Shivara said. Neither are the Valorians, Yuna replied. But they learned. In 3 weeks, peaceful teachers and artists became defenders. Why? Because the alternative was death. You had the same choice. You chose comfort over courage. The chamber fell silent. Are you judging us? The Pelleran asked stiffly. No, Yuna said. I am stating facts. Earth is a harsh world. It made us strong, but it also taught us something else, compassion. We learned to help each other because alone we died. We built communities, societies, civilizations, not because we were safe, but because together we could survive. She looked around the chamber. You fear us because we are strong, but you should respect us because we chose to help when no one else would. We did not have to save Valoria Prime, we gained nothing from it. We did it because it was right. Back on Earth, Fleet Admiral Kajun watched the council session on a secure channel. His staff stood around him waiting for his reaction. She is good, one officer commented. The council does not know how to respond. Kajun nodded. They are scared. They should be. Not because we are violent, but because we are willing to do what they cannot. What happens now, sir? We prepare, Kajun said. He pulled up a star chart showing the galaxy beyond council space. The Kreshti did not attack Valoria Prime randomly. Someone ordered them to test us. Test us for what? To see if we are a threat. Kajun pointed to a region marked Dark Territories. The Kreshti sent a message to this area before they retreated. We intercepted it. Someone out there is watching us. His intelligence officer brought up the decoded message. Confirm human species matches profile. Recommend classification upgrade to Apex Predator. Advise extreme caution. They are scared of us, another officer said. Good, Kajun replied. Fear prevents war. But we need to be ready. If they come, it will not be a small raid. It will be everything they have. On Valoria Prime, Lieutenant Hyun prepared his fighter for departure. The human fleet was leaving, heading back to Earth. Valorian mechanics worked alongside his crew, learning human technology. They were already adapting, improving, growing stronger. A Valorian pilot named Rix approached him. Will you teach us to fly like you? I can teach you the basics, Hyun said. But flying in Earth conditions takes years to master. Your planet is challenging, but Earth is in a different category. We want to try, Rix said. We want to be like you, strong, capable, ready. Hyun smiled. Then I will send you our training manuals. But remember, strength is not just about fighting. It is about knowing when to fight and when to show mercy. Sergeant Minji said goodbye to Kylan. The young Valorian had become her unofficial apprentice, learning engineering from watching her work. Keep practicing, she told him. Your world needs builders as much as warriors. Will humans come back? Kylan asked. If you need us, Minji promised. Deathworlders do not abandon friends. Dr. Sora embraced Talon. The Valorian teacher had become a skilled medic during the crisis. You saved more lives than I did, Sora told her. You knew your people, understood their needs. That is valuable. You taught me that healing is also fighting, Talon said. Fighting against death, against despair. I will keep fighting. Commander Daehyun stood with Ambassador Thelion on the landing platform. The Valorian looked older than he had 3 weeks ago. The crisis had aged him but also strengthened him. What will you do now? Daehyun asked. Rebuild, Thelion said. But also prepare. We will never be helpless again. The humans taught us that survival requires strength. Just do not forget the other lesson, Daehyun said. Strength without compassion is tyranny. The Kreshti are strong, but they only destroy. You must be strong enough to protect, not conquer. We will remember. Thelion promised. The human fleet departed Valoria Prime to cheers from millions of grateful Valorians. As the ships left orbit, Daehyun looked back at the planet. It was healing. The fires were out. The people were rebuilding. Life would continue. On the Indomitable's bridge, Yuna received a message from Fleet Admiral Kijun. New orders. Additional council species were requesting human protection. The Valorians were not the only ones who realized the galaxy was more dangerous than they thought. How many requests? Yuna asked. 7 species so far, the communication officer replied. More expected, Lieutenant Hyun overheard. We are becoming the galaxy's security force? We are becoming the species others turn to when they need help, Daehyun corrected. That is both an honor and a burden. Can we handle it? Minji asked. We barely have 2,000 Marines. The galaxy has billions of beings. We will not do it alone, Daehyun said. We will teach others. Like we taught the Valorians. Share our knowledge, our training, our strength. Make the galaxy stronger. Dr. Sora looked thoughtful. The council species forgot how to fight because they never needed to. Paradise worlds made them soft, but Earth made us hard. We can be the bridge between their idealism and reality's harshness. The fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading home. But Yuna knew this was just the beginning. Humanity had proven itself to the galaxy. They were no longer the primitive newcomers. They were Deathworlders, survivors from a world that tried to kill them and failed. In the dark territories, something watched. Something ancient and powerful. It had sent the Kreshti as a test. Now it had its answer. Humans were dangerous. They thrived where others failed. They turned hostile.